Who do you give your time to? Welcome to Paul at Home. My name is Paul and I'm at home. And today's special guest is, well, who would you choose? And today's special guest is Dudley.
Yeah, what do you want?
Well, I was just introducing you.
Hey, oh, it's another video.
Yes, it's another video. Hello! Is there anything you would like to say?
Oh yeah, can I say it? Of course you can. I can't do it.
Oh no, not this again. What is it you can't do?
Well, my dad said he would take me to the cinema.
Oh, that's good. To see a film.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to see it.
Okay, great. So, well, what was it like?
I don't know.
Well, what do you mean you don't know?
Well, the cinema.
Yes.
It was the other side of the lake.
Okay.
And my dad,
yes,
he decided he was going to swim there.
Okay. Well, you're a duck.
I know.
And, well, you can swim?
Not exactly.
What do you mean you can't swim?
I don't like it.
You don't like what?
I don't like the water.
Why not?
It's all wet.
So you're a duck?
Yep.
And you don't swim?
Not this duck.
Right, okay, so how did you get to the cinema?
Well, I didn't go.
Oh, and you wanted to go there with your dad?
I did.
So, well, what happened?
I had to stay home.
Okay. You know, you could have walked around the lake, eh? You could have walked around the lake.
What, really?
Yes, you can. Maybe you could go with your dad to the cinema next time.
But this time, walk around the lake.
Yeah, you should be able to walk around the lake.
I didn't think of that.
Anyway, now listen, it's time for you to go. Oh. What is it?
I wanted to know if I can come back and spend some time here again.
You want to come back?
Yes, please.
Okay, you can come back. But right now, Dudley, it's time for you to go, okay?
Okay.
If you saw my video called Helping Others, you would have met Cato the lion, but also seen the story of when Jesus fed 5,000 people with just 5 bread rolls and 2 small fish. It was a pretty amazing miracle, but not only were the 5,000 people 5 bread rolls and 2 small fish, but the disciples collected up baskets of food that was left over, and there were 12 baskets of food, which is kind of cool because 5 plus 5 plus 2 equals 12. Well, the event I'd like to tell you about today takes part right after that. Jesus had been speaking to the crowd, but then it was time to send people home. But first of all, Jesus spoke to his disciples and he said, guys, jump in your boats and head off to the other side of the lake. I will meet you there later on. Well, no one questioned how Jesus was going to meet them there later on. They just listened and followed to what Jesus said. Meanwhile, Jesus sent the crowds home, and then Jesus headed off up into the hills on his own to spend time with his heavenly Father. Jesus showed us how we can possibly spend time with God as a Father in heaven. And meanwhile, out in the middle of the lake, a storm was beginning to develop. The wind was blowing, the waves were waving, the boat was starting to rock around, the disciples were beginning to panic. They screamed, "Ah!" They didn't really know what they could do. Even the tough fishermen were worried. They were looking for land. And then, in the early morning mist, one of them saw a shadowy figure heading towards the boat. He screamed, "It's the Loch Ness Monster!" It's not the Loch Ness Monster. How do you know it's not the Loch Ness Monster? The Loch Ness Monster lives in Loch Ness, Scotland. This is Galilee, Israel. Oh yeah, well in that case, it's Jaws! It's not Jaws, a film about a shark. That film hasn't even been made yet. Well in that case, it's a ghost! And that's what they thought. All the disciples screamed in terror, "Ah! It's a ghost!" And then they heard a voice that quite simply said, "Don't panic, lads. It's me." Peter stood up. He recognised that voice immediately. He looked to where the voice had come from and he said, "Jesus, if that's you, call me to be with you, walking on the water." Now I don't think for a second that Peter was testing that it really was Jesus. He knew it was Jesus. He'd spent time with Jesus. He'd heard Jesus' voice a lot. I think he just really wanted to be where Jesus was. He said, "Call me to be with you, walking on the water." And then this is what Jesus said. Jesus gave a detailed explanation of how to get out of the boat. No, of course he didn't. All Jesus said was, "Yeah, okay, come on." And then Peter did something that he'd actually been doing for most of his life. He stepped out of a boat, but this time the boat was in a slightly different place. He grabbed hold of the side of the boat. He lifted up his foot. He put it down onto, not into, but onto the water. He picked up his other foot. He put it down onto, not into, but onto the water. And then he was doing it. He took steps. Peter actually walked on the water. But then for a moment, he took his eyes off Jesus, the one he wanted to be with. Maybe he felt the wind on his face. Maybe he saw the waves crashing around. Maybe he heard the disciples back in the boat. "Peter, what are you doing?" For a moment, his focus was taken off Jesus, and Peter began to sink. But even as he was sinking, he knew who to go to. He called out, "Jesus!" Jesus whizzed across the water like a speeding athlete. No, Jesus ripped his shirt open. There was a superhero logo there, and Jesus flew up into the air. No, I'll tell you what Jesus did. Jesus reached out his hand and pulled Peter to safety, which tells me something really important. When Peter needed him, Jesus was right there. He wasn't the other side of the boat. He wasn't halfway across the lake. He was right where Peter needed him. Peter had chosen a great person to give his time to and learn from. I wonder who we give our time to. I wonder who we want to spend our time with and learn from. Well, I wonder if Dudley has learnt anything from this story today. Let's have a chat with him. So Dudley, what did you learn from today's story?
Oh, I liked it. All the people wanted to be with Jesus.
You're right. All those people did want to be with Jesus. But Peter wanted to be with Jesus even though it meant walking on the water.
Oh, that sounds too wet for me.
I wonder who it is that you would look up to.
Oh, someone who's taller, of course.
I wonder who it is that you would look up to, want to be like, want to give your time to. Maybe like Peter, it could be someone like Jesus. Well, I hope you have a great day.
Me too.
And I will see you next time.